Welcome to Radiant Health, how to create health from the inside out. I'm your host, Lori Wakab, and I'm so happy you're here today with us. Hopefully you found a nice quiet place. You can sit back, embrace everything you take in today. You never know, today might just be the day that you hear exactly what you need. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Robin Stebbins. Robin is a wellness coach with Purify Within, and she's the host of Medicine Girl podcast. Robin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lori. And it's so great to see you as always. And I just love this new venture you're doing, Radiant Health. I love that.
Oh,
I just love the word radiant. And then my two favorite things.
I do too. I really do. I really feel like you can, if you glow on the inside, you can glow on the outside.
Yeah, I think it all starts from within.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. I like to start the foundation with, what does radiant health mean to you?
That's an excellent question, because, and I think it sums up with what you just said, Lori, is that if you are radiating from within, it will show up on the exterior. I think we get too caught up in the facade of the exterior. So it's makeup and hair and whatever else. And especially as we age, I think we're similar age. We get caught up in the preventing the aging process. When to me, radiant health means, what is on the inside? What am I doing to create radiant health within me? What am I eating? What am I drinking? What are my thoughts? Who are the people that are in my social circle? All of those things are contributing to how I radiate from within, so that I have this radiant on the outside as well. And that becomes like secondary.
Yes, I so agree with you. It's like you said, everything that you put inside, whether it's food or thoughts, because the thoughts can really make or break you, I think. They can really debilitate you.
100%. I just posted on my Facebook, if you had any idea how powerful your thoughts are, you would never think a negative thought again. And it's not that, I always tell people, it's like your lungs breathe, your brain spins thoughts. That's what it does. And a lot of them are just because the brain is functioning like dreams. It's just active. We don't have to believe those thoughts. And it's the awareness of those thoughts that I think is so important, and it's foundational. You cannot be well, truly well, if you're thinking negative thoughts. Or you look in the mirror and you point out and you see, like, what's wrong with me?
Absolutely.
Or you beat yourself up. Oh my God, that was so stupid. Even though it seems so innocuous, like that is the crux of what's happening. And then it's like, then it cascades into a spiral of negativity.
Right. It's like the thought then creates this belief and that story in your head. And then that all of a sudden becomes who you are, or who you believe that you are.
And that's all it is. It's who we believe we are. And I don't know if I told you this. This is a really good example for people to get, like, how powerful your thoughts are. I used to work under a physician who wanted me to spearhead this weight loss program. But he was very old school, and I would get patients that had to see me. They were forced to see me in order to qualify for the gastric bypass surgery.
Oh,
we had to do 6 months of one-on-one. And so they weren't willing to change what they ate or what they drank, because they wanted to qualify for the surgery. You had to be a certain number of pounds overweight. So the only thing that any of them would agree to is the mantra. I said, okay, well, let's just talk about what's the broken record that's going on in your head. I'm so fat, I need the surgery, whatever it was. We would change it to something positive, and they lost weight.
I completely, I believe that. So probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I started doing positive affirmations every single day. And it
Yeah.
really changes your whole mindset. But I think, like you said, you have to be aware, you know.
You have to be aware of what's that noise. Like the another analogy is you're sitting at home working on your computer and all of a sudden the leaf blower is turned off and you're like, oh, you had no idea that was going on at the time because it was not in your awareness, but it was causing stress.
Yes.
Same with all of those repetitive negative thoughts, especially we're so programmed as women, especially to tear ourselves apart, to look in the mirror and tear ourselves down. I remember in like PE in grade school and elementary and high school, just all of the girls looking in the mirror and this one grabbing this thing and that roll and saying I'm fat or my face is this or my nose. It's like, why are we doing that? And look at how it manifests.
Oh yeah. And it stays with you the rest of your life unless you are aware of it.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work to get past those, triggers or
Right.
whatever it is that's.
Well, I think it's the awareness that, yeah, I have been really creating this negativity, then the acknowledgement of I love myself. And that's why I'm going to take care of these thoughts and really speak to myself the way I would speak to a child or the 3-year-old version of myself. So that then becomes the new awareness.
Yes, to love that inner child, to love that child that's still there because she's there, but she's been
In
hurt.
all of us.
Yeah.
And that is, it's reparent. A lot of times we have to reparent ourselves and go back to that, what we wished we would have had or needed in that moment. We can do that now. We can go back and look at those memories and become that guiding light and that beautiful force for that little girl, and to constantly know she's within us,
Mm.
to protect her and love her. And I think, when I really look at everything that I've done in my life, the number one thing has been finding that bedrock of self-love, unconditional self-love, meaning no matter how many mistakes I make or whatever it is, I've hit the bedrock of unconditional self-love. And then everything else kind of falls into place.
I was just going to say that's kind of when the magic happens, right? Because
Yes.
you just embrace it, embrace the good and the bad and the ugly, because like you said, that's when you unconditionally love yourself.
Yeah. And you start to realize the good, the bad, the ugly, they are all of equal value. They're all equally beautiful. And the ugly and the bad you start to shift your perspective. Oh, that was challenging, or that was a great lesson, or I found a lot of really good information about myself in that moment.
Exactly. I mean, what would you say that the choosing a radiant, healthy lifestyle, how has that been the key to your success, would you say?
I think it's the key to life, right? So in my life, as I'm awakening to who I am as a person, as a being, as this infinite conglomeration of energy, I see that this radiant health, if I have hit that bedrock of self-love, then I don't put in toxic things in my body. I was drinking like a glass of wine or two a few times a week and doing it unconsciously or to relieve stress. And when I hit this self-love bedrock, I call it now, that just drifted away because it wasn't in alignment with loving myself. Toxic relationships that were vaguely toxic. It was nothing to, write home about. Vaguely toxic drifted away because you're not going to be with someone that treats you differently than you treat yourself. So if you're treating yourself poorly, you're going to attract people that are in alignment with how you're treating yourself. So that's what I mean. Like once you hit that bedrock, everything starts to permeate outward of that radiant health.
Yes, I agree. And like you said, the relationship was vaguely toxic, but that's all it needed to be. Just that, even just that little bit, like you said, takes you away from your alignment, and it's just enough to start you down that kind of that path that you don't want to go on, that negativity.
That's it.
And so I think that's a good, like a really important point too, that if even if it's vague and just a little, it's still out of alignment, and
Yes.
it's okay.
And as that's it, as you're uncovering deeper and deeper layers of your wellness, of your health, you realize like that vaguely toxic relationship, or the one that you feel really exhausted afterwards, or even just tired, those aren't serving your highest self. And as you continually take off those layers, I call it the artichoke, because the artichoke, you take the layers off and you get to the heart. And so you're getting to like that pure form of your heart rather than the onion. It's like, well, then you just peel out all the layers, you're left with nothing.
I like that, because I always use the onion analogy, but I like the artichoke, because you get to the heart of the
You get to the
artichoke.
heart.
That's
Yes.
beautiful.
Because I think that's what we're all after, is to see each other authentically. But with this ego that I was given, which is, it's not a bad thing. The ego is not necessarily a bad thing or meant to be killed or destroyed. It's a beautiful part of us. It's how I can love another person. But when you get to the ego and the heart and all of these things, it shows you deeper and deeper levels of your truth.
Yes. I have to admit, I kind of was training myself to push away the ego. And I believe I was on your podcast quite a while ago. And that was one thing we talked about. And you kind of gave me like a whole new perspective on what the ego is, and that it is a needed part of us. Whereas I was trying to just push it away and, get rid of it, so to speak.
Yeah. And again, it's like, that's radiant health. If we're born with something, the ego is a part of us. It's the border barrier separation. So if we become teammates, not adversaries, anytime I try to fight something, it just gets bigger. And like look at all the wars we've waged. They just makes things worse. The war on drugs, it just increased drug use. When we can make teammates and say, oh, okay, I hear that's my ego right now. Interesting. I hear you. I see you. But this is how I'm going to navigate from my heart.
And seek
or the
to
ego
understand.
and the ego is really good at pointing out where I need to work. Oh, you triggered me by saying that. Beautiful. I need to go inward and see what was triggering, and maybe reparent myself, maybe love that part of myself, maybe just sit with it and hold space.
That's nice. I mean, that's really nice. Oh, I'm so sorry. Didn't think to hang up that phone. It's going to ring for a minute. So what kind of ways do you practice radiant health? I know you've mentioned some things like affirmations, but on a regular basis, what would you say that you do? And I think one more ring. Oh, we're done.
You got it.
Thank
you. Great question. Because I think first thing for people listening is you tap into your inner self to determine what am I doing today to create radiant health. And for me, I feel like I am surfing on that wave of creation. And as I know more about myself, I will definitely shift. But my days begin with I make these little mind movies. So instead of, watching television or anything like that, I create pictures and videos of what I would like to see in my life. And I do it in real time. Like I state my goals as present tense, and I see them, and I'll see pictures and music. I do, I have a recorded affirmations that I put to pictures and words while I do my breath work. And the breath work has been an absolute game changer for me recently. I've done it for about a year, and each time I go deeper and deeper and deeper levels of complete peace and stillness and relaxation. And if you would have told me I could even meditate for more than a minute, I would have laughed.
Really?
I was Miss Monkey Brain personified. Couldn't sit for more than a minute.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? And then I assume it really quiets down the chatter.
It does. It completely quiets it to the point where I have felt like I've traveled outside of my body. And I do that practice pretty much every morning. It's a non-negotiable now because it feels so amazing. And it's
Wow, it does.
so,
It
yeah.
sounds amazing.
I do Wim Hof. Guided stuff on YouTube. Holotropic breath work, if I have more time, is phenomenal. And then I'll do just I call it feel good yoga. I'll go down to the water and ground, rain or shine, whatever the weather, just because, again, that connection with nature quiets my mind, gives me peace, so that, it's 1 or 2 hours every morning. But I create this beautiful foundation for the day. So even if everything else goes haywire, and it does, I'm human.
Yeah.
At least I feel this. I know where I can go to find that stillness. I know where I can go to find that peace and that calm. And to me, then that is radiant health. I'm not feeding a hungry ghost. I'm not in a state of stress so that my food choices are not in alignment with who I am as a person, or who I'm talking to, or what I'm saying, or what I'm attracting in. It's more in alignment with that peace and the harmony.
That's beautiful. It's like in the morning, just setting your intention for the day and
Yes,
being that person.
and I like setting intentions. As I tell everyone that I work with, say that and state it in present tense, because the being, the soul, the heart, the brain, they hear, I'm going to make 20,000 a month. That will never happen, because it's always, I'm going to. All we ever have is this present moment, this one present infinite moment. The future and the past only exist in what we create in our minds. So if we're feeling anxious, you're living in the future. If you're depressed, you're living in the past. Stay here in this moment. That's where your radiant health is.
That's such good advice. And that's something I've really been working on for a long time. And you're so right. I only learned within maybe the last 8 months about setting the intention for the day and who am I being. And I have to tell you, the first few weeks of doing that, I kept, my intention was, I'm going to be productive today. I'm going, it always, was around some sort of work, some sort of goal that I needed to attain in my head. And it took me about 2 or 3 weeks to learn, no, it's like you said, it's about I'm being loving today. I'm being,
yes,
it's something, something that serves me and will serve others as well. And like you said, when like trying to get, I forgot the number you used, but $20,000 this month.
Yeah.
It's like you said, we're always in that mode of wanting, and that's what the universe is going to give back to us.
And I believe, like, in that moment of saying, I want 20,000 a month, or I want to have a partner, like a lot of people are craving a soulmate. You're just stating the wanting. And when you're not in alignment with that feeling state, like, what are you after with a partnership? Are you after someone to fulfill all your needs? Like, really tap into what is it that you believe that will create, and feel that right now in this moment. Then when the energy is like, it'd be nice to have a partner. It'd be nice to make 20,000 a month, but I'm fulfilled within and everything is within, in that place of completion.
Yep.
They show up.
It's true. It is absolutely true. And I've been practicing this for 6 to 8 months, not relationship, but just other parts of my life. And it's true. I went from kind of a state of want and doing, constantly doing, to a state of being and accepting, and just life is abundant, and just knowing that, yeah, life is abundant. We have this fear of scarcity, and
we've been taught that though, Lori. You know, we've been taught that from the beginning, and this theory of evolution, the survival of the fittest, the eat or be eaten. That's not how nature really works if you look at it. Nature in harmony is collaborative, and species collaborate, and it's the way it is, and we are not separate from that.
I love the way you put that. You know, it's so true, and we lose sight of that because, like you said, I just feel like, yeah, we tend to live in fear unless we're aware of that. And then, because I think I lived in a lot of fear of everything, everything, until I became aware of it. And once I became aware of it, and then realized how abundant everything is around us, this universe is abundant. And once
well, even look at, like, if you're a gardener and you plant one succulent or one flower, that one flower gives you thousands of seeds. The one succulent every year gives you 10, 15 babies each. It's like, it's so abundant. It has more than you could ever use in a lifetime. And that's when we lose that scarcity, and then we can collaborate and love one another without, side-eyeing you like, what can I get from Lori? Instead of, how can we collaborate? What can I give? How can we create a conduit of sharing and give and take?
What a great analogy. I mean, the gardener, that's so true. Yes. And that's, the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm. Really. Yes.
And just kind of to circle back, I just wanted to mention what you were saying about in the mornings, how we can like just set our intention, and we can meditate, or we can visualize. These are things that any of us can do. Like, I know as we get older, because I'm feeling it in my body, things are changing. I'm not as physically, well, I'm busy. That's part of the problem. I'm not making time for exercise, which is very important. But I'm just noticing that it's not as easy to exercise physically as it used to be for me. But something like just visualizing and meditating, that's something that any of us can do. And I think that's like an important thing to note as well, because no matter where you are physically in life, you can just sit here, stand, lay, and visualize and do these affirmations. I completely believe in them, just like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And also in that, the feel good stretching, and just doing what you're like, flowing with the movements that your body wants to flow with. You don't have to do this regimented, structured, it's got to be miserable 1 hour session, nor should it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's a good point. Always do what you're capable of doing and embrace that. And because I find it will get easier anyways. And even if you, like for yoga, even if all you can do is stand there in mountain pose, yay.
That's it for that day. And then I think another really important piece that I always just get so excited about when people get this is when you start to tap in and listen to your soul and your heart, and you actually do it. You implement, like, okay, today it's mountain pose or corpse pose. That's all I'm doing because I heard it from my heart. You begin this thing I call a link up. like in Avatar, when he links his hair to the, it's like the little horse creature, and he
Okay.
with the horse, and they become one. That's what you're doing with your soul. Your soul is beginning to trust you. You're not going to put it on these horrible starvation diets, and you're not going to force it to go to these boot camps unless that's your thing.
Right.
You're listening and you're tapping in, and I think people have this perception that, oh, we're just going to be lazy blobs doing nothing. It's the opposite.
Right.
Watch how productive you become, because now it's in alignment. You're not wasting time.
And
You're
that's what
not
it
wasting
all,
time with this abstract busyness of like work, 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 work.
yes, like that hamster wheel that I was on. But yes, you're
Yes,
right. It's
exactly.
and that's kind of what it all comes down to, is being in alignment with yourself. Is that true? And
It's it's in alignment with yourself. But I think where people get lost is they don't implement it. They hear it, oh, this person is not good for me. This relationship with my mom is sucking the life out of me, and then you hear them, but it's my mom and she needs me. Or this person, like, where would they go? They don't have anywhere to live. Or it's the buts.
yes,
And that is where the suffering lies.
that's such a
My
good point.
soul knows the truth,
That's a
but
good
I am going to override that because I have my ego, and that's the other side of the ego. I can override my heart's desires. I can override alignment. I can override all these things and create suffering. But I'm the only one creating it. It's not the person that's toxic. It's what in you is drawn to that toxicity. That's what needs to be addressed and looked at, and leave that other person out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's, yeah, absolutely. Reflect that back on ourselves and see
Yes.
what the
And it's not
trigger.
victim blaming, and it's not saying it's my fault. It's just happening. It's like, what is wounded within me that is so drawn to someone treating me poorly?
That's, yeah. What a great way of putting it, because that's really so important and what we need to do.
Yeah.
Is there, you've given so much valuable information and tips. Is there anything else, like a valuable thing you want to share with our listeners today, whether it's something that they can implement or just another tip or hack to help them?
Well, just tapping in when you were talking, what came up for me is I was talking to a friend last night, and I was sharing with him my bedrock self-love story. And I said, at first it was awkward because I had my PhD in self-hate. Like, that was what I had down. And I thought that was why I was so successful. And he said, and I kind of shared, like, well, it was awkward. And I was like, what do I do? How do you find self-love? Stare in the mirror and say, I love you. And he said, actually, that's how he started his course of self-love. He's like, I didn't know where else to begin, but it worked. And I had a younger apprentice doing the same thing. He was on like a horrible track of drug use, and that's all he did. And it completely transformed his life. So that is I can't stress that enough, the importance of finding and tapping into that bedrock of your self-love, because then you are worthy from within. You're not seeking anyone's approval. And I believe true freedom is not needing anyone to see you, because you have seen yourself. And so whatever that is for you to find the self-love, for me, it was, what is the kindest thing I can do for myself in this moment? Sometimes it was take a nap. Sometimes it was take a bath. Sometimes it was rest. Sometimes it was go on a 2-hour hike. Whatever it was, I listened and I implemented.
You implemented, yes.
I implemented after I heard the message.
And you do hear it from your heart too, if you listen, if you're open.
If you and that's a really good point. The heart or the soul is very quiet. The head, the fear booms. That's how you know it's coming from the head, the ego, the mind. It's yelling, it's screaming, oh my God, what if this, what if, what if, what if, what if?
Yep.
The soul, when you ask it a question like, what's the kindest thing I can do for myself in the moment, you hear a booming like, get out, get yourself out there and do this, like, hold on, just wait,
Yes.
get still and wait for the answer to come from within, and it will come through you. It'll be like, oh, and that's the feeling of it. It's oh, that sounds amazing.
That's so true.
And that is, I think it was a Buddha quote. How do you know that it's the ocean? It tastes of salt. How do you know truth? It tastes of freedom. So it feels free.
Yeah, that's so true. And thank you for sharing that, because that was a very valuable tip. And I'm going to be honest, as part of my affirmations every day, I do tell myself I love me. I do.
I love that. It gives me chills when I hear people saying that. And when they speak to themselves, it's
and it
positive.
was weird.
It's kind.
Yeah, it is. It does feel awkward at first, and it's almost embarrassing.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed to tell myself that I love, but I do when I'm in the car by myself and I'm driving. I love you, Lori Waka.
And it gets easier though, right? It becomes more natural.
Because
let's face it, I've been doing the former for 50 years. That I've got that down, and that's a broken record, and that doesn't make it right. It just means it's a habit.
Exactly.
It's a well-worn trail. Like if you look at, where do you want to go hiking? Oh, it's this gravel trail that's already, paved. You don't want to go and hack your way through the bush with a machete, but that's what you have to do when you start creating new thoughts and ideas. So it's going to be the machete creating these trails, but it's so worth it. It is so worth it.
I agree. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I know that you've been very gracious to offer a gift. I'm going to go ahead and let you tell the listeners about that.
Well, yeah. And thank you so much, Lori. I just feel always so much gratitude in connecting with you and creating these new ideas and thoughts and solidifying them. So I am a wellness coach, and I have a business called Purify Within. And I'm also a registered nurse. So what my mission is to help people purify all of the toxins out of their life, that's nutritional and thoughts and everything else. So I do a 3-session and a 6-session package to help people kind of elucidate the path to ultimate wellness. So if you do sign up for a 3-session package, I'll give you 25% off.
That's wonderful.
And all of the consultations are always free. I do a 20-minute consultation just to see if we're in alignment, because there are some people that I just say, I don't want you to waste your money. We're not at that place where we can work together to actualize what you're looking for.
That's good. I know that does happen,
Yeah.
And so I will make sure to put your link on the email that goes out with this video. And so I feel the same way about you. I just want you to know I love and enjoy our conversations, and I learned so much from you. Thank you for being here. And before we go, is there anything else you want to add or that I may have forgotten?
No, that's it. And just love yourself. Love yourself in any way that you can.
Beautiful. Thank you, Robin. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.